time. All the things you said we do, they're just overused. All the things you said we try, they just passed us by. I'm getting sick of saving lives and leaving mine to try. So I picked up the pace, left you, I don't need you, babe. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? Feels like I'm losing patience when you keep me waiting. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? It's so hard to save you when I needed left you, I don't need you, babe. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? Feels like I'm losing patience when you keep me waiting. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? But it's hard to save you when I needed
What's up? Wait, what's going on here? There we go. What's up, everybody? What's going on? Hope everyone's doing well.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you nice and clear.
Sweet.
Hey, Rico, what's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I just actually wrote my last exam this week for midterm, so I'm all done.
Very nice.
I feel good. Tired but good.
You ready to chat some all things blockchain, cryptocurrency? Oh, this will be a good chat. I'm looking forward to it. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm wearing my VR church. I'm representing, by the way. I'm VR church,
nice.
sweater. Yeah, I got it a few weeks ago.
Nice. I like it, man.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yo, look at that, sporting the VR church merch.
Yeah, very comfy.
Marco, what's up, my friend? Is this Marco from Brazil?
Nice.
Hey. Is this a different Marco? Could be a different Marco. All right, my friends. Hey, what's up? We're just going to jump right into it. My name is DJ Soto, one of the pastors at VR Church. Pastor Rico over here, MMO Church. Wait, pointing the wrong way. It's kind of mirrored. There we go. Pastor Rico. Oh, hey, Marco, it is you. Yeah, it's mirrored. It kind of messed me up. Yes. So welcome to the crypto chat for today. This is just going to be, let's set the stage for this because I know some people like Octane said, he couldn't make it, so he wants to watch it on demand. So we'll probably have people watching on Twitch and YouTube and all that type of stuff. So let's kind of set the framework for what's happening. This is not, first of all, this is not financial advice. So if you're coming here like, I need financial advice, you're not going to get that with this conversation, because number two, this is what this is, a conversation. We're just going to be talking about blockchain, crypto, all different aspects of, I guess maybe think of it as a broad overview, chewing on it, thinking about it. And so this is great for those that are not knowing anything about blockchain, not knowing anything about cryptocurrency. But even if you are an expert, maybe you'll still find some value. And if you are an expert, you guys need to be letting us know in the chat what's good. I mean, as far as like, just your thoughts. So not financial advice. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. There's also the blockchain Discord channel. So if you have some input, you want to put that there. If you have questions, you can definitely put it in the chat. We may or may not know the answer, but it'll at least be something we can chew on.
That channel is really good on Discord. Like, we had some great conversations with people, and they made me think about stuff that maybe I didn't think of before, or made me kind of research a bit more into things. And it's really good, really good.
Yeah, love it. Where am I looking for? That's the one I'm looking for. So yes, the blockchain. I think there's some thoughts I want to share with you before we kind of get into it. And this is very casual conversation about it. But I don't know if you guys remember the first time you heard of a new technology, let's say the smartphone, the iPhone. I remember the first time someone said something about apps on a phone. I was like, apps on a phone? What are you talking about? The first time someone said to Google something, or what is this MySpace, Facebook? So you look like throughout history, these moments of like, what is this? Like, this is bizarre. This is strange. This is new. And now with the advent of Web3, we're talking about VR, AR, the metaverse, and all these things. Now we have new terms for the economics. We're talking blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, DAOs, all these different things that are coming out of nowhere. A new currency, a digital currency where you can't hold it. Can you buy stuff? Like, how does this even work? I heard it's a scam. I heard you shouldn't do it. I heard it's the best thing in the world. And so that kind of leads me to this question that was on Discord that kind of, I think, is kind of helpful just to mention. And they said, why you think that the church must embrace and adapt to something you claim is so revolutionary? So in other words, why should the church get involved in blockchain? And by the way, this isn't necessarily like a church conversation. That's not necessarily spiritual, although we may infuse that just because that's part of who we are. So I guess, in other words, I'm not necessarily going to say, hey, here's a Bible verse that says we can use blockchain, right? I don't think, if that's what you're looking for, that's not what we're going to provide. We might give some Christian perspective, but it's really more about the conversation again. And I think the reason the church, if we want to, since we are broadcasting on our church channels, why the church should have this conversation is because when you think throughout history, like back in Bible times, the US dollar didn't exist. That wasn't part of the economic of the Old or New Testament. But economics was woven throughout Scripture from beginning to end. So when we come into Web3, and as people of faith, or let's say a church, should we get into cryptocurrency? I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that since Scripture has a narrative of economics woven throughout, we should at least be having the conversation. We should at least be conversating about it. We should at least be exploring. And so for us at VR Church, I think it's a matter of, hey, let's explore this. Let's talk about it. Let's compare notes. What are the good? What are the bad? Because there is good and bad with everything. I mean, any technology, there's good and bad. There's ways to use it well, ways for it to be misused. And so now as cryptocurrency, blockchain comes in on the scene, should the church get involved? That's yet to be seen, but in the fundamentally, we should absolutely be exploring and experimenting with it. Absolutely, 100%. I think so. And then as we sift through what we've learned, we can come out the other side and say yes and no, or a little bit of both, or we kind of form a value system around our experience that we've had. But we have to have the experience. We have to have the exploration. We have to have the experimentation 100%. That's what I believe. So, Rico, I was just blabbing there for a good 3 minutes. Anything you want to add there before we kind of dive in? Sorry to say just blah blah blah.
Yeah, no, that was great. Not really. I think you said it. You've kind of communicated, the reason why we're even talking about this. Yeah, no, I agree fully. It's good to talk about these things and explore them, ask questions, right? So no, I'm excited that we get to do this today. So
yeah, asking everybody watching on the chat. This is no right or wrong answer. This is no judgment. Just curious. Does anybody own cryptocurrency? We'll start out with that question. If you own, you have to say which one or how much, or you can not how much, just which ones that you have. Feel free to post that in the chat. Do you have any Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu? Let me know. And there's no right or wrong, just more out of curiosity. And then I have some other questions for the chat in just a second. But what was the one thought I wanted to communicate? It'll come back to me, so we'll come back to that. Ethereum. Oh, very cool. You got some Ethereum. I have a little bit of Ethereum as well, although I kind of staked mine into Ethereum 2, which is a whole other. We'll get into that maybe. I've never heard of this coin. Have you? GMPT coin?
GM? No, I don't think so.
You earn a little bit of GMPT coin. No, from Phantom. Phantom, I thought you had some Doge at one point. Did you get rid of it, or did I just have it in my brain as something incorrectly, or maybe you didn't have it the whole time? For some reason, I thought you mentioned Doge at one point. But here's just a little framework that we're going to just be chatting about. Nope, never owned any, just watching it. Yeah, that's good. I'm being an observer. So here's a little bit of a framework, how we got into crypto. I'm just going to, again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a crypto, mogul at all. But I do have just a little bit of experience. I want to share that. Rico share his too, how we got into NFTs. But Rico, in a second, I'll ask you to go ahead and start. Like, what got you into crypto? What got you into NFTs? What are some of the things that introduced you to it? And maybe your just kind of initial thoughts about it. But second question for the chat: have you used or do you own any NFTs? No right or wrong answer. Just curious if there are any NFT owners out there. So and the reason we want to have this conversation is I was surprised to see the vast emotion about crypto NFTs. Like, people that are like, this is evil, this is horrible, don't touch it, all the way to like, I don't have any clue what you're talking about. So that kind of like attitude makes me think, man, yes, let's conversate then. If we're having this reaction, that means dive into the conversation. Again, not to be declarative or give financial advice, but just to explore, experiment, and see what we can discover. Anyways, let's see, Rico. Let's see, no NFTs. They seem worthless to me. Fair enough. I made some, but couldn't sell them. Just some pictures. Okay. Gotcha.
Nice. Yeah.
Not a huge fan of the idea of NFTs. Yeah, that's a big convo for sure. And we're going to touch a little bit, not a ton. So, sorry, Rico. I know I'm taking up a lot of time. Because we're not getting into it, but just real quick. I think that we're going to have more other chats, crypto chats, that go into detail, right? Let's say we'll pick NFTs, and that's the only topic for that crypto chat. We'll pick DAOs, that's the only one, or wallets. But today you're just going to get a smattering and an overview, and then we'll do some deep dives later. I at least understand why someone might want crypto coins. I don't understand wanting an NFT at all. Yeah, that'd be good. I love my NFTs, so I'd love to share why I am excited about it. But I do understand there's a misused side to NFTs. All right, Rico, tell us about
Yeah,
crypto NFTs. What your experience is,
yeah, for
how
sure.
you got into it.
Yeah, and yeah, like sorry, like DJ said, like we're sort of beginning this conversation, and I think before we look into, what is an NFT, or what's the point of them, should I even get one, we need to backtrack a little bit and maybe try to understand, what is blockchain in the first place, or why does it exist. So our thought process as we begin sort of this mini series on crypto chats is to sort of go through different aspects of cryptocurrency, because I feel like we need to understand certain things before we begin to talk about NFTs, or look really into them. So like DJ said, this is sort of introductory. But yeah, but to answer your question, what got me into crypto? I was aware of crypto back in, like, I don't know, 2011, I believe, like a while ago. I just remember my uncle owning some Bitcoin and telling me about it. And he's always been very techy, always aware of that.
Mm.
I don't know if I mean, he's not a millionaire today, so he probably sold it or something, like most people back then. So definitely a funny story. But yeah, so I was aware of cryptocurrency for a long time now, but I never really understood, I guess, the tech behind it, or never really understood how it actually like exists. And it wasn't up until about 2 years ago when I first began to slowly learn a little bit about it, and just downloading, apps like exchanges on my phone, and just putting in a little bit of money that I had laying around just to play around with it.
Mm.
And yeah, and I think it sort of evolved, over time, my knowledge of it and my involvement with it. Um, but yeah, I think I could say my uncle kind of got me into it,
Mm.
just by hearing him. And yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned like people that sold their Bitcoin. There is a lot of big Bitcoin regret, meaning people that could have been millionaires for putting in like hundreds or
Yeah.
even like low thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Could have
there's
been
stories
multi.
of a bunch of like hard drives where people were keeping their, their wallets, and they're lost, or they threw them away, or they thought, what's the point? And just people just shaking their heads and be like, oh man, if only.
Yeah,
Um,
that side of it's tough. Like the what
mhm,
if, you almost can't do the what if, because I remember it
mhm,
like in 2015 ish around there, trying to buy some Bitcoin, but the sites were super shady, and I
mhm.
just thought, oh man, if I would have just pushed through, like
Right.
somehow and figured that out, there would be, quite a bit of money,
Mhm,
available now. So
mhm.
I think there's a little bit of that shoulda, woulda, coulda in all aspects, and so
Yeah.
um, yeah. So for me, yeah, I tried to get into Bitcoin even, years like 2015, but just kind of shied away from it just because it's not the clean experience that
Mhm.
you can have now. It's not necessarily completely
Oh
clean.
yeah.
Um, but it was about 2017, 2018. I don't know. I have to go back and look. Maybe it was definitely around 2018 where I got some Dogecoin, because I had the Robinhood app. I purchased stocks in AMD, and I saw this thing called cryptocurrency, and I was like, oh, you can now do that through an app. And so it just seemed like a safer experience to have. So I purchased some Dogecoin. I think it was like $10, $25, and then that's like before it was a penny, right? And so you can imagine, the gains that we had from them, even though Dogecoin is quite a bit down. And then, yeah, we put some money in it when like Dogecoin was like 5 cents as well, and so put some into Bitcoin. I remember my first time buying Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, not putting a whole lot into it, but just putting some, and I saw it go down, and I was like, oh, this is awful. This is I'm not going to do cryptocurrency. But then I just kind of left it, and I saw it go up. So I was like, oh, this is fascinating to have experienced the ups and the downs, and then the meteoric rise of Dogecoin, and then the fall of Dogecoin as well. So yeah, so for me, like I mentioned before, I'm not a crypto mogul by any means, but I've experienced it, and overall, like just experiencing what we have seen the increase, and even in its down market, there's still better than let's say you would put into your bank, like the small percentage that you would get from that. So that's my experience with crypto. We just been again, experimenting and exploring in it with our personal assets. But I am a big believer in the blockchain, for sure. I just don't know exactly how this is going to, play out, or what that even means, right? But I just do believe that there is an aspect to it that's decentralize, that's really going to empower people, that's going to take out the middleman. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, Rico, because I'm just like looking back at history, like from the financial crisis. I feel like the Bitcoin came out of that. Like, we're going to take this money that is kind of controlled by a few, and we're going to give it back to the power of the people. That's my kind of view of that. And Ethereum, I believe, from what I've read, Ethereum was based off a World of Warcraft, meaning the creator had an item in World of Warcraft that was taken away by the developers, and he just was so upset that his digital asset was controlled by a centralized or external party, and hence Ethereum has come from that. So yeah, that's my little kind of dabbling into cryptocurrency, seeing the positive side of it, also seeing like the negative. There certainly is some scamish elements when it comes to like altcoins or something like that. My experience with NFTs has been very basic. Warner Brothers released like these Matrix NFTs. Maybe I'll pull up an image of those here in a second. And so that was like me getting into NFTs behind like Warner Brothers. It felt safe to do that. It felt like a level of confidence to get into NFTs that way. So we've got some NFTs through Warner Brothers. I got one off at OpenSea just to experiment with some artwork. Maybe we'll pull that up. And then the latest one, Disco Solaris, if I'm pronouncing it right. So yeah, that's kind of my background with it. Let's see here. Someone says, I imagine one day widespread adoption of NFTs could lead to networks refusing to delivery content which you don't have permission to see. Not sure if that's a good or bad future. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of like today, like kind of chewing through those different things.
Yeah, that actually idea already sort of exists with certain NFT projects where by linking your wallet with a website, you have access to it, whether if it's some type of social platform, a club or something like that, where people chat, or I think there's one that used to be like this big wall where you could like paint a picture or something, but only people who had an NFT from that project would be able to access or go through that website. So there's little things like that people are experimenting with, I guess, already. And yes, I agree with you. I don't know whether if that's good or bad, and it can definitely be used for good, and it can definitely be used for bad. Phantom's asking if we own any stocks. I personally don't. I used to, but I'm just not patient enough with them, or not knowledgeable enough, I guess I'd say. And it's cryptocurrencies and stocks are very different. But no, I don't own anything. What about you, DJ?
Yeah, I used to, when I got in with Robinhood, I used to own some AMD, or I still own a little bit, and saw some pretty decent increase with AMD. But then been shifting towards more of the blockchain investments. It's been kind of the latest. But yeah, they also do go up and down for sure. Man, all right. So let's talk about blockchain. Let's talk about what it is, man. And I know it's like a confusing thing, and there's a great video that maybe we'll post in the chat about what the blockchain is. But dictionary definition is that it's a system in which like a record of transactions made in Bitcoin or in other cryptocurrencies are maintained across several computers that are linked in a peer-to-peer network, which may for some of us still be like, that didn't explain anything. But, that's kind of like the fundamental idea. I heard one person kind of put it like, and Rico, I don't know if you agree with this, it's kind of like a Google spreadsheet that everyone has and everyone is able to update. That was their way of trying to use something people know,
right,
to kind of connect the idea of like a Google Doc we all update. Do you
Yeah,
think that's a
I could see. Yeah, I could see why they say that. I think essentially, like the blockchain, you could think of it as a shared database, right?
Mhm.
Um, and a typical database usually it stores informations in charts, right? Like you can think of Google Sheets or Excel forms, right? But the blockchains store data in blocks that are then linked with one another, and that's where the name blockchain comes in from. So they use a different type of a technology to store data in that way. Um, but yeah, do you want to just jump into it and begin to explain a little bit about blockchain? You
yeah,
want me to?
yeah. One
Um,
thing I'm putting in the chat here is it's like a shared immutable ledger that facilitates the process of recording transactions
mhm.
and tracking assets in a business network. And so there is no one company that owns it. It's like shared amongst its users. But yeah, let's jump into it. Maybe, yeah, give
Yeah,
us a
so
little.
the technique of like linking blocks together was actually um, originally invented or described back in 1991. There was a group of researchers who essentially intended to use this as a way to this technology to timestamp digital documents. So why would they want to do that? So essentially, they wanted to put a timestamp to documents, so it wouldn't be possible to like backdate them or to tamper with them, right? As think about 1991, like sort of the shift between paper and computers and stuff, and they wanted to find a way of using this tech, this way of this new database in a way that you can go back and tamper with information. So pretty much like a notary. It wasn't really picked up or used by people until 2009 when it was adopted by this person Satoshi Nakamoto, and he's essentially the person who created the digital coin that we know today of Bitcoin. So he used that technology and sort of began using it to create a coin, and that people could begin to use, like you explained earlier, DJ. So essentially, as new, it can be very confusing or very technical, but not to go too much into it. But essentially, as new data comes in, it's entered into a block, and then one that block has like certain storage amount and information in it. So once the block is filled with data, then it's chained on the previous block. So the way it works is there's a hash. There's like almost a formula, a number that needs to be calculated that connects each block to one another. So it makes this sort of linked data that's changed all together in chronological order. And there's different types of information that can be stored on the blockchain, but of course, like the most common use that we've seen so far, it's like you said, a ledger for transactions between people, right? To move one coin to different wallets. um, so in the case of Bitcoin, for example, I know that's sort of the one blockchain that we've talked about so far. um, the blockchain is being used in a decentralized way, like you said, DJ, like so like no one person or group has control over it, but rather all of the users collectively have control over it.
Mhm.
um, and yeah, and so the data that's entered in them, like the information about these transactions that are happening, it's permanent, it's there. And it also means, in the case of Bitcoin, it means that transactions are permanently recorded and viewable by anybody. So they're permanently there and anybody can view them, which in a way, of course, there's this sense of um, you can see a wallet and you can see a transaction. You might not necessarily know who the person is, but it's very transparent in the way where you can see what's happening in the
Mhm.
blockchain. Yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed like people say just like on social media, like, oh, this person, this whale, so to speak, has this amount of Bitcoin. So there's that public this ledger, a public display of not who owns what, but kind of who owns what. We don't know exactly who the person is, but there's a what's the word? The identifier or the address? Maybe is that the
Yep.
when we think of it as the on the blockchain. Um, So that's important what Rico is talking about, because you're saying, oh, well, let's talk about Bitcoin, let's talk about NFTs. Well, we got to talk about blockchain first, the tech behind and
Yeah.
then we can talk about coins, tokens, NFTs, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the interesting thing too is like, and sometimes a lot of people maybe sort of use these names back and forth and it gets sort of mixed all into one, but there is no one single big blockchain. There's actually different blockchains. The one that we hear the most, or maybe the first one was Bitcoin, but we have other blockchains like Ethereum. We have the Cardano blockchain. And I'm personally not a huge fan of the Bitcoin or Ethereum blockchain, and we'll get to hear a little bit more why later on. But yeah, and so in order to understand, okay, let's just say you come up to me. I'm jumping ahead here, but you say, hey, I really want to buy this NFT. Like, what do you think of it? The first question that comes to mind to me, it's not how much it is, not who the creator is, whatever, but it's like, okay, where is this NFT like living? Like what blockchain is a part of, because depending on where that is, it might actually help me make a decision whether or not I want to get into that. Yeah, can I give one example for the Matrix NFTs that we've
Yeah,
purchased?
absolutely. Yeah.
So Warner Brothers released, I think it was 100,000 NFTs for their upcoming movie Matrix, and they released it. So it was released in the Ethereum blockchain. Now, not to get too technical, but inside of a blockchain, you can have networks as well. So it's inside of the Ethereum blockchain in the Palm network. And essentially, by not being only just on Ethereum, but being on inside of a network, the fees that you pay are different, and there's different sort of rules inside of it. But anyways, if I would have known that these NFTs were in the Ethereum network, I probably would have not purchased them. Because one of the issues that is going on with Ethereum right now is just the gas fees. So that, what I mean by that is essentially the fees that you have to pay for a transaction. So every time you make a transaction, you have to pay a little bit of fees in it, and that's the case for pretty much for every blockchain. But the amount that you pay depends on the blockchain, and Ethereum is one of the ones it's pretty expensive right now. So sometimes you might want to buy an NFT that's maybe $100, but you might end up paying maybe $70 just to purchase it, just to do the fee.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, so I think before we dive into like what coins should I purchase, what NFTs should I own, we need to understand that there's different blockchains and there's different rules or different ways to navigate inside of each blockchain.
Are they called, and I'm just going to ask you like elementary questions if you don't mind.
Mhm.
So like the Bitcoin blockchain, is it called the Bitcoin blockchain? Is there a particular name for it?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the Ethereum blockchain, same thing. Is there?
yeah. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, like let's take a look at Shiba, for example. It's a meme coin that exploded over the summer this past year, and lots of people purchased it in maybe phone apps, right, in exchanges, and they're saying, oh, I got this coin, it's so good, and so first mistake, rather, it's actually not a coin, it's a token, and that's going to be something that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But essentially, Shiba is a token that exists inside of the Ethereum blockchain. Do you know what I mean? So inside of each blockchain, there's I guess your question, DJ, it's actually the perfect question to kind of go into our next topic, which is the difference between a coin and a token.
Sweet. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we'll sort of go layer by layer. But let's pick on Ethereum, for example. We have a blockchain called Ethereum, and then this blockchain will have its own cash, you could say, or its own coin where it's used to pay for transactions, and it's used to it's got its official coin, you could say, right? So the official coin of the Ethereum network is Ether, and and it's used to pay for transactions. It's used to as an investment. People buy it and keep it and hope it grows. But with Ethereum, you can actually then go ahead and purchase tokens, and tokens are similar to coins but not the same. but they're essentially like coins, you could say, that you purchase with Ethereum. Now, a lot of people, if they use an exchange on their phone app, then you won't be able to tell the difference because you're just buying it with your cash, right? With dollars, you put it in money and you buy in a bunch of different mixture of coins from different blockchains, right? Whether if it's a coin or a token. But yeah, so it, when you begin to specifically talk about each aspect of the blockchain, you have to kind of narrow it down, or you have to like break it into different little layers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Before we keep going on, let's hit some
yeah, go for it.
audience questions or comments. Blockchain applications are numerous. Yeah, that's what Rico was saying. Just today, the federal state of Brazil filed a project to regulate the carbon market environment, and they mentioned the idea to use a blockchain to record the purchase and sale of carbon market bonds by companies across the country. Wow, like a interesting use case there. I do like the idea of a decentralized open source future, right? So the pros and cons of that, but the pros are like removing the middleman. Let's see here. Tesla Kimball's Musk says company was very ignorant of environmental impact of its Bitcoin purchase. Yeah, and we're going to touch a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit on the environmental aspects of that. Just kind of show you some graphs, some images. There are some cryptocurrencies like Monero that don't publicly let you know who owns what. Interesting. Start mining, and I'm assuming Ethereum, right? Start mining Ethereum and take some share of that. Yeah, if I can afford a graphics card, right? These days, the graphics cards are crazy. Rico, like, let's say, what's a good? Because that, like, all that you said made sense. But for me, like, is there a Web 2 way to explain it? Like, is Ethereum like the iPhone, and the coin is like the iOS, the Ether, and then like Shiba Inu would be like an app on the iPhone? Does that make sense, or can we find
Yeah, yeah,
some?
and yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I haven't thought about it like in the context of a phone like that, but when you and I were talking the other day, we talked about it sort of like VR, the VR world, right? Um, we have a VR headset, right? And we have sort of this idea of the metaverse, and it's hard to explain, and it's hard to kind of put into words, similar to what the blockchain is, right? When you think about it.
Hmm.
But then when you use a headset, let's just say I want to go to VR chat, right? Or let's, you have VR chat, you have alt space, you have rec room. So you could look at all of those different platforms as different blockchains, right? We have
Hmm.
the blockchain of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. I think Phantom talked about Monero. That's its own coin and its own blockchain as well, right? Um, and then when you're inside of like alt space, let's just say, let's compare alt space to Ethereum. Okay, I'm in there, and I could come up to you, DJ, and say, hey, I love alt space. Like, I go to this, like, what is it, campsite world?
Hmm.
The uh, first world that you see when you enter on alt space, and you're like, I love it, it's so cool, I meet people all the time. And then you say, oh, have you checked out like the worlds that people can make, or have you checked out other worlds? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't know. I was just going to the campsite world, that's all I know. And that's kind of where we're at with blockchains. Like, we have the platform, we have the world, but inside of that platform, you have your main coin, and then inside of there, then you have different tokens. I'm going to touch a little bit on tokens, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'll give you an example of what a coin and a token is. So a coin, it's cryptocurrencies you've heard of before, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, Cardano, Litecoin. Then we have tokens, like Shiba, Dai, Hosky for Cardano, Chainlink. You maybe heard of that one as well. I think somebody mentioned they had Jump or something like that, Jump token, and I looked into it, and that's ERC20, which means it's a token inside of the Ethereum blockchain. So the main difference is that a coin, it's an asset that's native to its own blockchain, and then a token is something that's created in an existing blockchain. and that's very important to know. So thanks to the creation of like smart contracts inside of blockchains, which is another technology that we could have a whole
Smart
episode on.
contracts. Yeah, there's
But
a
thanks,
lot. Yeah, this is like
yeah,
overview. Yeah,
yeah.
this is
But
good.
thanks to the smart contracts, people are able to create their own tokens. People are able to purchase other tokens. So you could think of like a coin as like the cash, the main currency, and then tokens as almost like projects inside of that blockchain, right? Like we have Jump coin. I'm not sure what the purpose of that coin is. I'm not sure who created it, but there's a developer team behind that token, right? And they probably published a white paper explaining, what their goals are, what they want to achieve with that token. So the way they use a coin, it's usually to pay for things inside of a blockchain or just to simply hold it and invest. Tokens have more functionality, like where I mean, most people usually purchase them just for it to like moon and make lots of money, right? But there's more purpose to them, in terms of using it in a platform that somebody might be creating. So you can see how like it begins to expand what you can do inside of a blockchain, and not just simply financially. But yeah,
So for a blockchain to have tokens, it needs a smart contract. Is that
yeah,
like a requirement?
yeah, and NFT, yes, that's correct. And tokens and NFT pretty much are used with the smart contract technology. So
And
they're not the same, but you could almost say like a token. It's like very similar in the way it works technologically as an NFT.
so the Bitcoin blockchain does not have smart contract. Is that correct?
I don't think so. Like I don't hear about like Bitcoin NFTs and stuff like that, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I do know that Bitcoin, like the blockchain, it's quite outdated now. It's a bit slow. So if it were to compete with what we have out there right now, it wouldn't be that impressive. But I think people like Bitcoin because it's the first one and because of the amount of the value that the coin itself has.
And I'm just doing this just as a layman, just kind of
Yeah.
thinking through this basic. So like on bullet point 3, technically maybe blockchain coins, and then like in parentheses between coins and tokens, we put smart contract. Like that needs to exist for the tokens and the NFTs to exist. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah.
correct or is that wrong?
Hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we got different blockchains. Or the Bitcoin doesn't have, as far as we know, doesn't have smart contracts. Ethereum blockchain, Cardano blockchain, um, coins and I get coins and tokens. The VR example was helpful, going into VR chat, but then there's worlds, within there, kind of in that ecosystem. Um, did you want to get into NFTs, or do we still need to cover some things in the back end?
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, we could touch into NFTs. I think it'd be a good time.
And any before we do that, chat, is there any questions you have about blockchain, coins, token, smart contract? I mean, maybe you had some thoughts. I just want to make sure. I know we didn't do deep dives into, because like you said, you can just do blockchain in and of itself and just take a whole episode on that.
Hmm.
So this is more introductory, but I don't want to lose anybody if someone's like, man, I need some more examples. And there's a lot of great videos explaining this, but I'll post one at the end in the chat. Because even when I got into like Doge, Bitcoin, I didn't understand the blockchain. I just understood I was buying a coin,
Hmm.
but I was buying it on exchange, and I'll talk about that in a second.
Hmm. Yeah, so somebody shared a link if you want to buy some pictures. It's it's a link to OpenSea, which is an NFT marketplace for the Ethereum network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did OpenSea fix their issue? Didn't they have a security issue recently?
I think they had an issue or something like that. Yeah, I'm not really into the Ethereum network. Blockchain, to be honest. So don't keep up with it too much.
Yeah.
But I did hear that they had some security issues not long ago.
Yeah, I'm into, again, it's not financial advice, it's just sharing what we're into. Like I'm definitely into the Cardano network. Probably my largest asset is Cardano. It used to be Bitcoin, but now it's Cardano. Yeah, I just like it. Like when we did the recent NFT experience, the fees were extremely reasonable. I did buy an NFT on the Ethereum network through OpenSea, and the gas fees were crazy. And so, yeah, I think we're just still in that world of, trying to figure out what this is going to be, and the technology, and Ethereum 2 is coming. And, I don't want to get too into the deep end, but
Mm-hmm.
all right. So we got blockchain. We got, and by the way, sorry, if I just want to do some backup here. So this blockchain is being run by personal computers of people or farms. It's just all over the world, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, you could say that, where it's essentially being able to actually function by nodes, you could say. Um, and yes, it's many devices, many nodes combined together. It's not one central entity. It's not like a, if I were to search images of puppies on Google right now, it would contact Google's a server room from Google. It's the opposite of that. It's not one central place, but it's coming from different nodes around the world. Yeah.
Hmm. If somebody buys something there today, the money goes to VR Church. Woo! Very nice. VR Church accepts cryptocurrency. So somebody gave like $10 worth of Bitcoin like a year and a half ago or something, and now it's in the hundreds. So that's
Mm.
just an interesting story, or it might be down now, but still way more than the $10 that
That's
it
funny.
originated with.
Yeah.
It might be one of the first offerings that multiplied, exponentially
Yeah.
for a church. So blockchain, computers are running it. We're creating coins, tokens, NFTs. And we
And
don't have to get
yeah.
into this, but do you have any philosophical, like, not necessarily, what's the word? Not position, but like, I'm attracted to the decentralization that this is going to provide. The blockchain is going to provide.
Mhm.
That's a motivating factor for me. Like, I don't have to deal with the bank. I am the bank. In one sense, and maybe that's not the best way to describe it, but philosophically, I'm attracted to that. Is there anything
Mhm.
for you that is along the same lines, or do you view it differently, or what's your thoughts?
No, I'm just kidding.
Money. Yeah, that's it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, there's two sides of the coin, I guess you could say. But most people who are into crypto are because of um, for finances, right?
Mhm.
As investments, to purchase coins, to sell them when the value goes higher. Um, I'd be lying if I said no, that's not the case for me. So obviously that is the case as well. I'm gonna close my Discord. I think my Discord is going off here. There you go.
Yeah, I think it was good.
Um, but yeah, and to answer, yeah, I think there is decentralization that comes with it and the idea of it. Um, but as you begin to sort of hang out in a specific blockchain, and you begin to meet the community, like people who, whether if it's influencers in that blockchain, or pools, and we can explain more about what a pool is. As you begin to sort of get to know the ins and out of it more, you actually realize that you have to almost fight for decentralization instead of a decentralized blockchain.
Mm,
Because on paper, the idea sounds great, but on practice, there's actually some ways where certain things are actually not very decentralized in when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Um, and I'll give you one example, like on the Cardano network. Sorry, I keep saying network, and they're similar, but they're not. On the Cardano blockchain, the way this blockchain works, instead of being proof of work, it's proof of stake, which is something we can touch on a bit later. But essentially, by holding Cardano, by holding this native coin, you can either just hold it or you can stake it. And by staking this coin, I believe if you have more than 500 Cardano, uh, then you become a voter for the blockchain. So what essentially is this team of developers are constantly working on making the blockchain better, right? They're upgrading the tech, they're working on things. Um, in what they do, there's seasons where you can actually vote and make decisions on, hey, should we do plan A or plan B when it comes to this specific blockchain, right? So by holding coins, by holding Cardano, it gives you voting power. So in paper, it sounds great because you're like, oh, everybody who owns Cardano, everybody can vote, right? Everybody can have their voice. It's decentralized. But one of the issues right now is that lots of people purchase coins from centralized exchanges, right? From an app. Maybe it's Coinbase, maybe it's Robinhood, right? And you buy a bunch of coins and you have them on your phone, but not necessarily on a wallet. Um, it's the idea of a custodial wallet and non-custodial. So essentially, the wallet that these coins are being held in are actually not yours. They belong to Coinbase. Let's just pick on Coinbase, for example. So by holding it on an app, by holding it on a wallet that does not belong to you, you're essentially giving up that power to vote, right? And this company, Coinbase, when it comes to making a decision, a vote, they're probably gonna go with the decision that's gonna favor them as a business, as a company,
Right.
rather
Yep.
than a decision that might favor, a regular individual who's using the blockchain. So although there is decentralization, there's also a fight or a tension in the community of people to try to break through, um, you know, big entities who are trying to control or influence how a blockchain exists. Which is,
Ye-
yeah, it's pretty neat. I think, just to finish, I think
Mm.
as people begin to understand more about blockchain technology and sort of the idea behind it, I think it what's going to take its education to kind of really take full, um, um, really fully be decentralized. Yeah,
Mm.
that's my 2 cents.
Um, yeah, let me get. I have some thoughts too I want to share. Do we want to talk about exchanges or stay go to NFTs? What do you think is the next
Sorry, say
direction?
that again.
Next topic: NFTs or exchanges? Should we talk exchanges
Um,
or?
yeah, I mean, I could touch in exchanges if you want a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we do that just for a second.
Yeah,
So this again, I'm not a crypto mogul. I really am a newbie when at the end of the day. Even though I have NFTs, I have crypto. I've used them. I'm cultivating some type of portfolio around that. But my observation, not with all coins, not with all blockchains, but certain blockchains still carry a little bit of old world economics that I'm not a big fan of. So you think of like banks having all the power, a handful that of individuals that have that control, and there is some of that in blockchain or in they call them the whales. They hold a ton of the coin, and it could just sell at any moment and influence the price. So that's kind of like, man, again, not every blockchain or not every crypto, but there is some of that I'm just like, man, that's old world. This is supposed to be the new world of decentralization, the new world of empowerment to the individual, but there's still a handful of people that have the power. So that's one thing. And you can correct me if I'm viewing that wrong, Rico, but that's just my observation. The other one is like, the gas fees. It's like the transactions, like particularly on Ethereum, is so massive. It's like that's the bank's fees were better, but this is supposed to be better than banking. You know what I mean? Are those two views off or on? Like, is viewing like the whales having
yeah,
a lot of power, the gas fees, like those two elements are old school. That's like Web 2 banking. Am I
yeah,
viewing that wrong, or what are your thoughts? We don't
yeah.
need to
No,
get
I no
too into
that.
political, but
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's a great thought, and it's true. I mean, it's, there's this sort of governance in blockchains, and the more you hold of it, the sort of more influence you have. So yeah, that's definitely an issue. I think there might be ways of fighting that, and maybe people are looking into it, or you know what I mean. But yes, like, that makes total sense. I think I had a thought, and I think I lost it now. Yeah, I know, when you say about lots of people holding amount of coins, I think of, my least favorite blockchain, which is Solana. People love it because I think a year ago it used to be a couple dollars, and now it's like 100 and something dollars. So people are like, "Oh,
you made a ton
it's
of
it's an
money.
awesome blockchain. Look at all the money I made." I mean, great, good for you. But a lot of the before sales, a lot of the coins from Solana, a lot of Solana was being distributed to like the board members and people who sort of took part of it. And it's, I think, in my opinion, and don't quote me on this, but it's one of the most centralized blockchains out there, and I'm not a fan of it. But
Mm.
that could be a whole other episode. I don't want to go
Yeah,
too much into
well,
that.
no, and that speaks to kind of fundamentally that, we're not saying this is good and this is bad. We're saying there's all of it. There's some good aspects that we believe we should engage in, experiment, explore. Then yeah, there's some ones that we're just not fans of. But to sweep it and say it's all good, sweep and say it's all bad, that's not where we want to go, particularly as a church. And personally, that's what I wouldn't want to do. We want to like take a good look at these different elements and examine them. Um, what was the other thought I had for you? Blockchain. Yeah, I can't. Let's see here. Meta says right. Governance, governance
Mhm.
algorithms and protocols are very important with crypto. Some governance protocols can lead or bias towards centralization over time. Right. That's not
Yeah.
what we want. Or maybe that, I don't know. I thought the sentiment was we're going for a decentralized empowerment,
Hmm.
not a decentralized, um, because then we would just use banking. Right. Um, I
Hmm.
don't know. That's just my limited point of view.
Hmm.
But let's talk exchanges. Let's get real basic with it. So this is like if you're a newbie, you're probably, and I don't say that derogatorily because I'm a newbie.
Hmm.
If you're a newbie, you're probably going to get your first coins on an exchange because it's very convenient.
Hmm.
Now, Rico would probably explain why that's not the best, a good place to start, not a good place to stay.
Hmm.
But for convenience, for simplicity, for just kind of what do you call it, dipping your toes in the water to kind of figure out what this is,
Right.
is all about.
Yeah.
I think exchanges are a great, first look. Rico, tell them what an exchange is, and maybe I'll pull up the like Coinbase kind
Sure.
of website while you're doing that.
Yeah. So there's what you can call like a centralized exchange and decentralized exchanges. So a centralized exchange is essentially like a company who has like coins for sale or tokens for sale. Like we can look at Coinbase right here. As you can see in the picture, you see somebody's portfolio inside of the app. You see how much amount of money in terms of dollars they have, and you can see the little like, the little grid going up. The perfect image of, oh, look at me, I'm making money.
That's
Right.
going up. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I like how
Um,
they put that right
yeah.
on there.
And so it's $8,000 in total, but that's being divided by like Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever else they have there, right? So when you use an exchange like this, it's super easy to get into, and that's the difference between, like DJ, you were talking about how, man, I wish I got Bitcoin back in the day, but they were really sketchy websites, or it was very like obscure or not easy to get into it. Well, today it's actually quite easy to get into crypto. And so you can download any app, like Coinbase, Robinhood. I don't recommend it, but there's Robinhood. There's uh, tons of different exchanges like this. Once you have it on your phone, you essentially either link your bank to it or a credit card, whatever payment options they have, whether it's like direct deposit, and then you deposit money from your bank, like US dollars or whatever currency you have, and you put it into the app, and then you use those dollars, and then you exchange them for coins or tokens, right?
Mhm,
If you go to the very top, DJ, again, to like the home page,
mhm,
uh, stay on that picture. Yeah, the portfolio right there. So let's take this for example. Here we have a person who has three different assets here. They have Bitcoin and they have Ethereum, right? Right away here, you can see, as what we've learned so far, that Bitcoin and Ethereum are both cryptocurrencies, but they're actually cryptocurrencies from different blockchains, right? Um, so, but they're able to sort of coexist or exist in one app. So that what we see here, it's a portfolio. It's an app showing you what you own, but sort of behind the scenes, that amount of Bitcoin you see there, that's being held on a wallet. That's the only way that you can, store, like you can have your coins. That Ethereum amount, it's being stored on a wallet, and it's what's called a custodial wallet. So it's actually a wallet that's owned by Coinbase. Some
and we
apps
don't
might be
we don't
different.
own it. They own it.
Yeah, so like they own the keys, I guess, to for you to access your cryptocurrency. Obviously, you paid for it, you have it, but like the comment says, that's centralization, and that's right. So if you have only a couple $100 or a few dollars and you just want to play with it, then 100% go for it. There's absolutely no problem. But if you're somebody who's like, man, I really want to like get into crypto, or like I really want to take full advantage of it, then I would recommend like going a different route where you actually um, uh, not keep your cryptocurrency in an app, in an exchange like this, but you actually create your own wallet where you can store your crypto. Now, it's not as user friendly, because right here we can see right away that we're going to need a wallet to hold our Bitcoin and a wallet to hold our Ethereum. So now we're going to be dealing with two separate wallets, right? So that's why maybe a lot of people might prefer just to use an exchange.
Yeah, so a great place to start, not a great place to stay. It's convenient, simple, and but right. If you want to take it to the next level, would Trust Wallet be the next kind of like iteration or something like Trust Wallet, or is there something in between the exchange and something like Trust Wallet?
Yeah, so Trust Wallet is a wallet that works mainly, like that's mainly used for the Ethereum blockchain, but there's many other ones. Um,
So what
there's
would be like in the next, like if we're saying exchange and now we're telling people, all right, here's what this next level looks like.
Oh,
What would be a
yeah,
good
yeah.
example?
In any wallet. I mean, there's gonna be different wallets for different blockchains, but yeah, I mean,
Mm.
Trust Wallet could be one of them. If you're into Ethereum, MetaMask is a popular one. If you're into Cardano, you can use Yoroi. You can use CC Vault. There's Nami. Like, there's tons of different wallets. Now, somebody might be wondering, okay, so you're telling me like, not to hold this coins in this company. So let's just say Coinbase goes under. Let's just say they go bankrupt or something happens. Let's say you're somebody who wants to buy crypto and hold it for the next 10, 20 years. You're a believer of long-term investments. Anything could happen to that company, right? And chances are maybe you might not be able to get your money back if something happens, right? Because they have those coins in their own wallets. Now, the moment you send them to a wallet, your own wallet, then that becomes your responsibility. And what happens with those coins? And you can, so essentially, when you create a wallet, it will give you what's called a seed phrase, which is either a 12, mostly 24 words, and it's like a password, and it'll generate that for you, and then you essentially like write it down on paper. You put it in a safe, never post it online or whatever. I mean, we can get in, we could do a whole episode like how do I get started with a wallet, but essentially you officially have the keys to your wallet. And let's just say, okay, so you're telling me to get off Coinbase and use MetaMask, for example. What happens if the service that the software that is running MetaMask to hold my wallet, what happens if they go down? Like, does that mean I lose my money then? And the answer would be no, because so your coins exist on the blockchain. So you could pick 3 or 4 different types of wallets, and as long as you have your seed phrase, as long as you have the keys to your wallet, you can use any software or service you like. So that's the main difference between an exchange that holds your currency and then a wallet. So MetaMask, you can't buy on I mean, I think they have options now where you can buy if you already have existing like money in it, but essentially like it's not an exchange, but it's a place where you hold your currency.
Hmm.
Yeah.
If you're a newbie for mining as well, new mining, that's a whole podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Quantum Cloud partner with Asus is a good place to start your crypto mining. All right, so Naked, your newbie is everyone's like way above our heads. So you're just advanced, is what I'm trying to say. You're light years ahead.
Yeah, the world of mining. Yeah. And somebody asked, what about a paper wallet? So yeah, paper wallet, it's similar to MetaMask. Do you want to search Ledger, DJ?
Is it like like the Trezor? Is that, or is
Uh,
that something different?
yeah, if you want to search Ledger wallet, we can show people what that is.
Yep, yep.
But it's the same idea, but instead of it being more like virtual, I guess you could say, instead of using a service or the seed phrase being connected virtually, it will tell you, it will come. Sorry, when you set it up, you write your seed phrase. Sorry, let me back up. So with virtual wallets, usually you get your seed phrase and then you type a password to make a transaction each time. With a cold wallet or a paper wallet, it's essentially offline. That's the main difference. One's online, one's offline. If you have tons of money and it's very long term, I would recommend using something like a ledger because it's a little bit safer, you could say.
When we say paper wallet, we're talking about hardware, right? Like
Yeah.
in other words, more advanced than what I'm describing, but a USB stick, you stick it in your computer, make your transactions, and then you pull it out and it's on your ledger.
Yeah, this is
Hardware.
what they look like. Just a little. It's pretty much like and I can show this as nothing, but yeah, it's essentially like a USB. So if I want to, so for example, I have cryptocurrency here. It's not actually physically inside of it. It's still in the blockchain, but this is a tool that helps me connect to my wallet that's existing in the blockchain. Now, the only way for me to make a transaction is by physically plugging this into my computer and using an app and then physically punching in a PIN code that's in here. So it's a very safe way to store your cryptocurrency.
What happens when you lose that?
If I lose this, I'll just buy another one and I'll say, hey, I already have an existing wallet, and I'll ask me, okay, put in your 24 seed phrase in here, and then boom, it'll be back and working.
And that is like I know we're throwing out a lot at you.
Yeah.
If you're doing all this stuff and you get to seed phrase and they have you write that down, that is a big important moment. That is the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. You don't want to lose your seed phrase. Because if you lose your seed phrase, you lose your access to your money, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So break it down. We have the exchange, like Coinbase, super simple, super convenient, but we don't have the wallet like they do. Technically, they could just go away and everything that we own goes away with them, right? And then you go to the next level, which would be it's a wallet, but what's it called? Like Trust, like MetaMask, Trust Wallet. What kind of wallet is that called? At
Yeah,
that level?
a non-custodial wallet, you could say.
Non-custodial. And then down here at this level is the paper wallet or the, I guess, hardware. So seed phrase is very important. And then Rico, if you don't mind sharing your seed phrase with us.
Yeah, sure.
So we could access your funds.
Send me 1 Ethereum and I'll send you 2 Ethereum back with my seed phrase.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic. Chat, any questions so far? Exchanges, custodial wallet, paper wallets.
Oh, and I guess we could touch into, so you might be wondering, okay, so one of the benefits to keep your crypto in your own wallet is, so if anything happens to the exchange, your funds are safe, you have more control over it. But another really interesting advantage to it is that you can actually then use that wallet to buy more crypto, buy tokens that might actually not exist in an exchange like Coinbase, and that's very powerful. And these are called decentralized exchanges. So if you want to deal with like Ethereum, for example, and you want to buy a token that exists inside of that blockchain, then you will go to a specific exchange. The first one that I can think of, it's Uniswap. If you want to Google that, we can show people what it looks like.
Decentralized exchange. That's how we're kind of describing this, right? The Uniswap protocol, right?
Yeah. We can show people what it looks like. So in the way this exchanges work is there's a button on top where you essentially connect your wallet, whatever app you're using, whatever extension you're using. So yeah, go ahead and click launch app.
I might have to do here. Let me
yeah, no problem.
Share screen.
Yeah, so you essentially connect your wallet to it, and then you're able to exchange currency. So here you're no longer actually exchanging fiat. You're not exchanging dollars for crypto. You're exchanging crypto for crypto, right? Whether if it's, you want to say you want to exchange a little bit of Ethereum for whatever token that lives in the Ethereum network, right? Or vice versa. Maybe you have lots of what are you looking at? Shiva?
Yeah.
Um,
SBU. No.
Shiva SHIV. B as in Bob.
Oh, gee. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, you click import. So yeah, so let's just say I'm like, oh, I really want to get into Shiva and buy this meme coin with my $100,000 of worth of Ethereum. You can do that way. So some of the actually when it comes to Ethereum, that's actually a bit of a disadvantage of doing it this way, because you're gonna have to pay gas fees. But when you're buying it from an exchange, it actually you might not be having to pay, because you're not really converting Ethereum to that. You're just converting dollars to Shiba. That's a different story. But let's just say, I'll tell you one benefit of doing this. Let's just say that there's this coin that you've heard about, and this great project. It's very early, but it's got great potential. You've did your research. You're really sure that this might be a good financial decision, and you want to purchase it. So you open up your phone, you go to Coinbase, you search for that token, and you realize, oh shoot, it's not here, right? So you're like, what do I do now, right? So exchanges will allow or will accept certain coins based on whether or not they feel like selling it, based on how popular it is, right? But if there's a token you want to buy that you see a lot of like potential in it, you would most likely be able to find it in a decentralized exchange like this.
So would that be something like Pancake Swap? Is that a
So yeah, Pancake Swap, it's just another exchange and decentralized, but that's for the Binance network.
Binance network?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Then you have SandySwap, which is for Cardano. It actually came out about a month and a half ago.
Oh yeah, the Sunday Swap, right?
Just make the yeah. No, I mean Ethereum is great. I just I really like Cardano, but yes, Ethereum it's fast. You pay for it, but it's quick. So it's a really it's not bad. Don't let my maybe negative kind of view of it. Don't listen to me. But anyways, yeah, it's what I was gonna say is essentially the main advantage is that you might be able to actually buy in a coin into a coin, or sorry, into a token when it's really cheap before it explodes, or before you see people talking about this coin on TikTok. If you hear someone say on TikTok, or an influencer saying, hey, this coin, look at it, it's gonna go like 10 times over, it's gonna moon, you gotta buy it, you gotta go in for it.
It's too late.
And they're like, oh, and you can buy it on Robinhood, you can buy it on Coinbase. It's too late. It might not be. I mean, and if you want to hold it for maybe years, it might actually not be too late. You never know.
Right.
But what my point is that if you want to take full advantage of some investments or projects, the best way to go, it's being able to hold on to your coins in your own wallet, and then being able to buy things, buy tokens without having to depend on an exchange.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at in my evolution. So I was a big exchange guy. There was a little bit of perks, convenience, simplicity. There was a bit of staking, like Ethereum 2 is doing pretty good. But now I'm seeing the major benefit of getting off of an exchange, going into like the Cardano network, where we can stake it. And I'm really into that now, just really keeping an eye on that. And that's really where even like just sitting there, it's going to create, like, it's going to generate something, whether it's token, whether it's a way higher percentage than the bank would, 100%. Not saying 100% higher. I'm just saying 100%. Just saying that's so much better than leaving the money in the bank, as far as like comparing crypto rates to bank rates. So I'm just really into getting off exchanges right now. So I'm not completely off. It's probably a 50-50, but I could see at one point getting into like 90% off of an exchange,
Yeah,
with some little benefits of keeping the exchange
yeah,
lower.
and to be honest, like you don't. Sometimes, like I have a really good exchange, and sometimes it's actually cheaper or just easier to put money in it. And like for example, I'll buy Cardano off it, and then once I have like a decent amount, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move it back to my wallet so I can do whatever with it. Whether if it's staking it or if you using that coin to buy NFT projects or you exchange it for different tokens inside of Cardano, like but yes, like there's nothing wrong with using a good exchange if you find it. It's just more if you it's this whole idea of going to alt space and hanging out in the campsite world, right? When you hear people talk about crypto, usually you stop at these exchanges. You think that's all there is. It's just
Right, right.
it's like stocks. You just buy it off your phone and you let it go. But when you get out of the exchange, when you have it on your own wallet, then you can do tons of different things inside of that blockchain with those coins.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And not to be repetitive, a great place to start. I would say not a
Yeah.
great place to stay.
Hmm.
But even when you get into the exchange like Coinbase, pay close attention to the APRs that you see, because there's 4 or 5 coins on Coinbase that have decent APRs at a minimum of like 4 to 5%, which is way larger than a bank, right? And so keep an eye on those, and then just like those will increase. You'll see a little counter on Coinbase of like those APRs going up for the
Hmm.
coin that you put it in.
Yeah.
Um,
I love the comments of Marco. It's just make the transition when the fees are low. Don't take my job, my friend. That's funny. Yeah, I love to
so
check out if by job you mean you sell NFTs. I think you shared the website earlier. I'll have to check it out. Um, but yeah, Ethereum is great because it's fast, it's quick. Yes, but in my opinion, it's becoming a little bit of like the blockchain for the rich, because I just can't afford to spend maybe 50, $70 on making a transaction. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But if that works for you, then just run with it, go for it. There's tons of people on Ethereum, so there's tons of people who are willing to buy stuff for sure. Now, if somebody's asking as well, are Ethereum gas prices worth it? Again, if it's something you can afford, then I'd say go for it. Ethereum is one of the biggest uh, places for NFTs. Like, it has the biggest NFT market. But I will say, and I have to say this because I'm a huge Cardano fan, is that if you're a content creator, if you're an artist who wants to maybe, create NFTs and give that a try, but you don't want to maybe take the risk of paying um, for fees, and just simply just uploading your work into a marketplace, then I would actually maybe recommend for you to give Cardano a try. So Cardano released their smart contracts, I believe it was sometime last year now. So it's very new.
Mhm.
Right now, Cardano is having some issues here and there where the blockchain gets pretty overloaded. So transactions take a little bit longer than Ethereum for sure. But just to give you an idea, to make a transaction on Cardano, it's usually 0.16 Cardano. DJ, you want to tell us how much that is worth in US dollars?
Yeah, hold on. Let me bring up a calculator. 16.
0.16 of Cardano, how much that is in dollars?
To USD is 90
Yes.
cents.
How much?
90 cents.
No, I don't think so.
0.16 Cardano.
No, 0.16.
0.16. 16.
Yeah,
0.16 to
it's like
ADA is 14
14.
cents to
Yeah.
USD.
Yeah, so every time you make a transaction on Ethereum, you're paying about 15 to 20 cents instead of however much you have to pay today for Ethereum. So it's a nice little blockchain to kind of get started in, and the NFT marketplace has been booming on Cardano, and it's just getting started. It kind of feels a lot of people in the Cardano community are saying that it feels like Ethereum a couple of years ago, when it just kind of began with NFTs. So if you're looking for a blockchain to participate in with NFTs and not have to break your wallet, then Cardano is a good place. This is not
Yeah.
financial advice, but it's just what I've
Yeah.
seen.
And then, Marco, I know you're big into Ether, and that's not Ether hate, but I do like
Mhm.
that is just to be honest with my experience, the reluctance to get into Ether is those gas fees. Trying to wait for the time, if there was some tech that would let me know when it was, and maybe there is, like gas fees are low, but I just haven't seen them low, and that keeps me away from that network. Um, and I do tend to definitely favor Cardano because of gas fees. The transaction time doesn't bother you as much. Sometimes it does. I'm like, where's my transaction? Do it. I want to see it now on the ledger. I want to
Mhm.
see it transact. But I don't know. The fees keep it really, really attractive. Um,
Mhm.
so what about this question here? Gas is paid per transaction, correct? Not per coin. So $10 worth is the same cost to transfer as 10K, right?
Yeah.
On all.
I don't know if on all.
Because I feel like it's not on Ethereum, but I could be wrong about that.
I know that you can pick different speeds on Ethereum, and that changes the price. But I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't change the amount. But I'm not 100% sure.
Right. I
Assume.
assume Ethereum will get a lot cheaper when it switches away from proof of work. Ethereum will migrate to proof of stake in June. Okay. Just purely for the sake of making
Yeah.
Rico happy. That's the
No,
only
that's good.
reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I will give it a try then for sure.
And this is not, are we talking about Ethereum 2 or is this Ethereum 1 that's going to migrate to proof of stake?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to ask Marco.
Marco, is that
The same
Ethereum
thing.
2.0?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Ethereum 2.0. Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, my friends. Blockchain coins, tokens. We
I think
dabbled.
we should touch into the energy just a little. I know we had some people ask us those questions.
Yeah. Do we want to
Yeah.
hit NFTs at all, or save that for another? Because I know there were some questions about that. Not so much like I don't know, maybe the tech or
I think yeah, no, I think Phantom said something like, I don't see why you would want to own one. Um,
yeah. That's
and
what I kind of wanted to
that's a
get
great.
into.
Sure. Okay. Do you want me to maybe begin a little bit and then
Oh
I'll.
yeah. Oh yeah. Go for it.
So yes, that was my same thought. Like, what's the point, right? Like, why? Usually, when you think of NFTs, you hear this crazy stories of people paying thousands of dollars for a JPEG, right? And that's because of how popular the Ethereum blockchain got, or how popular NFTs in Ethereum got. And there's tons of people with a lot of money in there, and there's tons of people who are willing. If it gets popular enough, there's tons of people who are willing to purchase it for that price. But there's also NFTs that maybe cost $50, $25, $100. So not every NFT is going to have this crazy price tag to them. Yes, yeah, and but there's actually places where you can buy NFTs for much cheaper, and yeah, I mean, this, essentially when you buy an NFT, you're essentially buying like the rights to whatever that NFT has. Whether if it's like art that you really like, you could just purchase it because you love the art, and then to be honest, you could save that art if it's just simply because you love the way it looks. You could just screenshot it. Like, I'm not against that whatsoever. You know what I mean? Like, it makes total sense why people would say. But I think if we're thinking only art alone, then yeah, why would you spend money on something where you could screenshot and save it? But the thing is that that's not the only like use for it or point. A lot of people are what they call themselves like flippers, right? Where they would buy NFTs from a project that maybe just began, and they will wait a little bit until it increases in price and then sell it right away, and then move on to the next project, and then so they make profit that way. Um, so one of the reasons why you would want to own an NFT, maybe there's a creator that you really enjoy their art, and but they don't stream on Twitch, so you can't give them bits, so you can't give them donations. but maybe they have their own NFT store, or maybe they have their own art in an NFT store. So you go ahead and purchase that from them to help them out, to support them. The other reason could be simply for investments, right? You want to hold on to it so you can sell it later. It's essentially a very similar idea when you buy tokens, when you buy coins, right? You want to buy a bunch of them, wait until it increases in value, and then get rid of it and sell it. And then there's another reason as well that NFTs exist, or that you could own an NFT. And this is actually my reason of why I own certain NFTs, which is when a project releases an NFT, they could have many reasons for it. It could simply be artistic value. It could be, there's hype in the community and people just want to sell it. You could be part of a community. It could give you access to a website or to something that you want to be part of. I know right now what's crazy, it's like the metaverse. Lots of NFT projects are selling this idea that they're going to create their own metaverse and then you can be part of it. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into that. I'm not a fan of that, but anyways, I just feel like it's a buzzword that a lot of people are taking
buzzword for
advantage
sure.
of. But like one project, for example, is the Husky project in the Cardano blockchain. And they've released NFTs that you can use with staking. So I'll explain what this is. If you stake your Cardano coins into a pool, you'll get a little bit of Cardano back every 5 days. And it's a good way of making some income, just by staking your coins. But if you pick a specific pool that has a project as well, sometimes though, not only you get just the Cardano that you naturally get, but you could get a token in return. And so Husky has about 12 different pools, I believe. And Husky is a token, it's a coin. It's the first, they consider themselves like the first meme coin of the Cardano network. And essentially by what they're doing, their goal is to help decentralization. So what they do is they've picked different pools from around the world who needed funds, who needed people to actually like stake their money on those so they could actually successfully run as a pool. So that they're helping other projects, other people by hyping their own project. So I'm going to make it very simple. When you stake a certain amount of Cardano into this pool, you get a certain amount of tokens back. You get some Husky coins that you can actually go now and sell for value. But they also released NFTs of this like little dogs, and there's like a bunch of them for very cheap. I believe you can buy them for 6.9 Cardano, which is a joke in itself, because they're very sort of meme culture. But what happens is when you own that NFT in the same wallet that you're staking your Cardano in, that NFT actually acts as a multiplier of how much tokens you receive every week, every 5 days. I don't know if that makes sense. So I could just simply hold Cardano and get some Husky, some tokens. But the more NFTs that I purchase and own in that wallet, the more tokens I actually get back every 5 days. So it's this incentive of like, buy these NFTs because they have the purpose of you receiving more coins, that then you can take those coins and sell them for Cardano. And it's just another great way of receiving a little bit of extra passive income and helping out pools.
Yep. Yeah, I'm starting to get into that a little more and more. Phantom says, but couldn't I just give them money and download the picture without paying fees? You talk about directly to the artist. NFT gives you no copyright, so you own nothing except a hash of a URL, which is worthless. So, from my perspective, like an NFT provides a sense of ownership. So I have some paintings. Like there's a Swedish painter. I can't show you the painting right now that I have. It's purely a copy. It's not the original. I have some Monet stuff in the kitchen. Purely a copy. Now, if I had the original and if I could verify that, that would evoke a significant emotional response from somebody. Like this is an original Monet, or this is an original Babe Ruth card. It's not a reprint. And so if you kind of take that a little bit and go into like NFTs, it's the sense of ownership. So sure, you could copy and paste, or excuse me, you can control or right click save as my NFT, but you don't actually own it. I do have the original. So if you can kind of feel that mirroring experience from the paint work that I have here, and I could lie and say, hey, this is the original, and who would, maybe it would fool some people. But in the blockchain, there is no lying. There is actually a verification that this sense of ownership belongs to this individual. So it's less about the image, although I love the images that I have, but I have the ownership of it, and that's proven, and I am the owner. And you can save it, but you don't own it. And so um, let me give you another example here to show you another use case of like an NFT. So remember, if unless I'm mistaken, I've heard this several places. I haven't read it. That's why I'm kind of hesitant to like be 100% on it. But Ethereum came from the creator losing his items in World of Warcraft. But now you have something like this that's coming out called Ember Sword. And Ember Sword is going to be an MMO, and it's going to be based on the blockchain. So when you have an item, when you acquire it and you, I guess, mint it or whatever the words are, it is your item. It is your item on the blockchain. It doesn't belong to like Blizzard. It doesn't belong to the creator. You actually have true ownership of your items, which is fascinating. Think of all the skins that we've paid for. Like League of Legends, I think was the first time I bought a skin, like a digital item that didn't exist in the real world, and I bought that for my character. And there's like a ton of examples of when we're spending money on skins, on assets, or let's not use the word assets, skins, and we don't actually own it. Like once, if that game goes under, if that game goes away, then those assets are gone, or those, again, not assets, but those skins are gone. And there's different examples that we can pull from that. But in something like this, and this is the future of gaming, in my perspective, where the ownership stays with you. You own that item, and it can't be taken away by the game. And even if the game shuts down, if I understand this to be correct, as it integrates with the blockchain, your items continue to exist. 50 years from now, your kids are like, "Whoa, you have an Ember Sword, staff. That's unbelievable. That game shut down, 30 years ago, but you have one of those original items." That's going to have some significant value if you think of it in those terms. So, sense of ownership is huge. And what was the other thing I was going to say about NFTs? Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Rico? A sense
Yeah,
of ownership, but not ownership.
I'm gonna.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I think it is ownership because it's actually there's a transaction of it. So I think it would be even more so than maybe even in an art gallery. Like there's stories of fake paintings over here in and I live near Washington D.C. They've had like these artifacts, these biblical artifacts, that were proven to be false. You know what I mean? So they had this ownership of these authentic materials, but were proved not to actually be true. But I think blockchain even gives it more of a sense of a concreteness, sometimes more so than the physical.
yeah,
But I don't know, anything I said there that you want to
yeah. No,
evaluate or critique?
no, not necessarily critique. Maybe stir the pot a little bit, because it's funny. We both have sort of like a drive towards blockchain and cryptocurrency. But in my perspective, or what drives me into NFTs, it's actually a little bit different from yours. I would actually say that for me, like that sense of ownership, it's not really something that interests me that much, to be honest. But I can see the importance on it. I think in order for you to feel proud about owning a certain NFT, a developer team or a company, whoever is creating a series of NFTs, have to work really hard at actually driving the value or actually driving the excitement towards that NFT. I don't believe that if you just buy a random NFT out there, then it's going to go up in price, or it's going to whether 20, 10, 30 years go by, it might never go up in value. You know what I mean? Things like that game, if it's got a team of developers, of people who are gonna like just knock it out of the park with this game, and it's going to be very popular, then yeah, I mean, obviously that's going to drive people into wanting to get into the game, wanting to collect NFTs, weapons, whatever you can collect, and then the value will go up for sure. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, I yes, I think let's take that ownership example. I own a few Husky NFTs, which is essentially like pixel images of like dogs with like glasses, hats. Like, it's ridiculous. Do I like the art? Absolutely not. Like, that's not what drives me into them. Do I like the project, the idea behind Husky, what they're planning on doing, what they're doing? Yes. So why do I buy NFTs from them? I buy them because when I stake my those NFTs, they act as a multiplier for me to actually get tokens back. So if you were to stake with Cardano, only Cardano, I think it's 4% or 4.6% a year. So um, you could just simply rely on staking Cardano and getting Cardano back, or you could stake in a pool that has a project like Husky, buy their NFTs to have multipliers, and then you get tokens back.
Yeah,
And as
multipliers.
I'm getting those tokens, then I go and exchange them for Cardano. So I'm actually making more than 4.6%, which is the default for Cardano. I'm making more money because I'm back in this project because I own an NFT. let's
Passive
just
income.
say let's just say you and I are staking in the same pool, and we're getting this interest, we're getting this money. They're gonna look at your wallet address and see, okay, DJ does not own a dog NFT. He saved in Rico's like picture, right? But like it does not show up in your wallet. So because of that, we're not gonna give you twice the amount of like coins or something like that. You know what I mean? We're just gonna give you this much amount. So I guess that's where that sense of ownership kind of makes sense. Where it's like, no, it's in my wallet, and it's being staked, and they can see that. So because of that, I get more coins, more tokens, sorry, than somebody who might not have those NFTs. That's where I see the value, or how you can use NFTs to, like, whether if it's for investments, to be part of a community, or even if it's beautiful art that you're like, you know what, I'm proud because like I own it. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong or critique what I'm about to say. Like you said community, you said projects, pools, right? And so what you have is a social agreement, a social contract. And that's a really important part of all of this. So let's go to the physical world for a second. If I had a Babe Ruth, like original baseball card, people would be freaking out. I can't believe that because there's been a social agreement, a community, a social contract that says this is valuable. But what is it? It's a cardboard with a picture of a guy on it. Like what's the value, of that? It's that agreement, it's that community, it's that collective pool of enough people that says we deem this to be valuable, right? And some people might not. Like I'll show this to my wife and she'd be like, wow, what is it? Let me use it as a bookmark. Right. And so maybe in the same way, when people look at NFTs, they're just like, it's just a bookmark, I'm not really interested. But there is a community, a social agreement, a social contract that's being made around this that people find valuable. I have a Superman comic from my uncle gave me from, I don't even know, the 60s, the 70s. I don't even know how much it's worth. And so it's not in great condition, so probably not a lot. But if I was to take it to a comic book store, I could get, what was it, $1 to buy? I could probably get a couple hundred. Now, why is that? Because there's a social agreement that this comic, the Superman comic from the 70s, has value. There's not that many of them. We agree. Let's make a transaction around this. But it's just a piece of paper with a guy in spandex, right? And so, but the agreement is that this is valuable. And so, I can go on with different, you know, examples of that, but that's kind of fundamentally, at least how I look at it. For NFTs, I am keeping an eye on the transactional flow of purchasing, selling, that aspect to me. But I also am just enjoying the ownership of a comic, a baseball card, or the equivalent of that. So that's just my perspective on it. So in the same incredulous way, someone would go, yeah, but that's just a picture of a whatever, what value is that? Well, there's a group of people that says it is at least, somewhat valuable. And as time goes on, because back when the comic book first came out, it was only worth $1. Back when the Babe Ruth, baseball card first came out, it was only worth whatever. But then as time goes on, the value is increasing, right? Because maybe rarity, maybe time. And what if something like these projects weren't getting involved in, like 50 years from now, these Matrix NFTs, my grandkids are evoking the same reaction and attitude. Oh my gosh, you have an original Matrix NFT, unbelievable, right? So I feel like that's what could be. I'm not saying it will be, but I'm saying that's kind of like the world that I'm experiencing it. So I'm experiencing NFTs from joy, from experimentation. I'm not experiencing it from like quick flips and I don't know. I guess there's scams out there and people are trying to get a quick buck. And I think that you can do that with NFTs, but it's just not my motivation per se. I don't know. Anything you want to critique from that rant?
Tips. No, I mean, yeah, no. I think it's great. I think yeah, there's many aspects of it, right? Whether if it's like keeping it for it to get very popular and then very valuable, whether there's some use cases for it right now. It all depends on the project. It really does. It all depends. Where you're getting them from.
Answer this question for me, Rico. These NFT images are hosted on a server, right? The image itself isn't in the blockchain. Who's paying to keep that server running? What happens when it stops?
Yeah, that's a great question. So NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are very similar in the way like tokens are being stored. So they're actually in the blockchain. Like they're not stored in a server, anything like that. But they're actually it's a transaction essentially. It's under the tag of smart contracts. Where you store an NFT is you store it in a wallet. The same way of how you store your coins in a wallet, you would store an NFT in it as well. That's another reason why it's great to actually own your own wallet and not just stay in an exchange. Because if you send money from an exchange to a project to purchase an NFT, you're not going to get that NFT on the exchange because they can't hold that for you. But if you have your own wallet, then you can store those NFTs there.
Which is why you have to connect your wallet to these to make that transaction. So yeah, and Marco, you're bringing up an interesting case use. Like I wouldn't have thought this, but you're bringing your NFT vision is social projects, raising money, and for those social projects. I think that's great. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah, we shouldn't be afraid of like saying, hey, we're in it to make money. We're in it to collect it. We're in it because we enjoy it. We're in it because we want to do some social justice or some social element to it. I think all those are great things. And so that's good stuff. Let's see here. I guess because of time, we should probably start wrapping up our final thoughts. But let me see here. So we're talking about crypto, blockchain, coins, tokens, NFT, exchanges, custodial wallets, cold storage or paper wallets, how to get into crypto a bit. Again, don't forget, this is just an overview. I think what we'd love to do is to come back and pick one and just deep dive on like one thing, whether it's NFTs, whether it's blockchain, whether it's exchanges, you name it, tokens, that type of thing. Maybe even deeper how-tos, kind of doing that type of thing. Anything from this slide that you want to cover, Rico, that before we kind of wrap things up a bit?
Nope, nothing that comes to mind. I think that's a great question, Phantom. I'm actually going to look into that because I can't answer that because I just simply do not know about the actual. Because there's different aspects of it. The actual image, I'm not 100% sure. The ownership or the data inside of it, where you can move it from wallet to wallet and then visualize it. Yes, it's on the blockchain, but I think he means like the actual image.
Yeah, I'd be curious how that works because when we bought the Disco Solaris, right? So that started on JPEG, that website, right? And then that has transferred over to my wallet and it's manifested the image there. So there was some type of image transfer. I'd be curious to know to what extent that happens. So like on my wallet, I actually have the image. I don't have, just numbers. I have that as well. So yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, if the images are not stored in the blockchain, it might be just simply because like it would just be too expensive, or it would not make sense to store so much data in it. But you essentially link, the image to the um, NFT, to the code that's being stored in the blockchain. I could see how technically it would make more sense to do it that way. But I mean, that's a good question. Like, okay, so where is actually the JPEG part of it? For me, necessarily, I don't. That doesn't matter in the way I use NFTs. But I mean, for somebody, it might. So no, that's a good question for sure.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Mhm.
See, NFTs that I thought blockchain. Um, eMeta says that JPEG is hashed, and the hash is stored in the chain. Interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter until it stops working. Then it'll be hard to resell.
What do you mean?
Um,
What stops working?
yeah, that's a good question because the blockchain is a network, right? Like if the whole network collapsed, or I'm not sure what you're asking there. So dude, let's see. This is great stuff, man. And I wish we could take some more time to go deeper into it, but um, NFTs, transactions. I had a thought I really wanted to kind of talk about, but I think I lost it. So we'll just keep going. Um, so here's some future topics that we want to delve into soon. Um, all types of things. Like, oh yeah, here's what I wanted to say, and maybe I'll put a link in the blockchain Discord that talked about uh, early American currency, like I'm talking 16, 1700s, how
Mhm.
that came to be. If you read that article, it feels like what's happening now. Like it was hardly this smooth transition from one day to the next. Like there's no currency. Now here's the currency we're going to use, the dollar, right? It was kind of like up and down, and now this shilling is worthless, and now we found a way to maintain the value of this economy in Pennsylvania. Like it was a big mess, kind of like what's happening now. It's kind of being worked out. Now, when we look back at that early American currency, that's worked out to a stable ish esque experience that we have currently. And I think for me, in the same way, crypto blockchain is going to work itself out into a stability. Um, I don't know if that it's there yet, but I think that's where it's going, and I think it's going to be very empowering. Um, so, future topics. Yeah, you're going to say something, Rico?
Yeah, I'll just add something to that. I think it's that's an interesting point. I think for North Americans, we just kind of roll our eye at that. It's like, well, why bother? Like, I mean, we have U.S. dollars, or there's not as much inflation. But even even from coming from growing up from in South America and Argentina, and having family there, and hearing about just corruption going on in terms of politics, hearing about how much the Argentine peso is losing value as time goes on, to the point where people are no longer saving Argentine pesos because it's just not worth it. Because if 100 pesos were worth $10 a month ago, maybe in a month from now it'll be worth $7. So by actually saving money, people are losing money. Prices keep going up. Inflation, it's a huge issue. So when you compare, a currency like the Argentine peso versus maybe Bitcoin, which, yes, it's a cryptocurrency that goes up and down and up and down, and it's like scary sometimes, and it's volatile. If I was in a position where I was getting paid pesos, there's two things you could do. You can either do your best and try to buy US dollars, and that's what a lot of people are doing right now because it's a more stable currency than the peso. And what a lot of people are doing too in developing countries is they're sort of turning their heads towards crypto because they're seeing how even though there's like a lot of it's very volatile, it's actually worth more than their own coin. Do you know what I mean? Uh, and I know, yeah, like you have there about El Salvador. You can go ahead and talk about that, but it it just makes sense, you know. If you have a coin in your country that is just losing its value as the days and months go by, then people are gonna try to buy, you know, crypto, buy try to rely on something that's not as volatile as their own currency.
And I bring up this El Salvador thing up just to show that, man, whatever you think about El Salvador, they're using it as an official adopted legal tender. Like that's a significant moment in history that Bitcoin has transitioned into, um, and all the things that you mentioned, Rico, before. So yeah, so future topics we're going to get into, and oh yeah, extra controversy: the history of Bitcoin use. The first heavy users were criminals, Silk Road, etc. Yeah, I remember whoever Warren Buffett's guy is was really big on talking about that. But I mean, it's not like the U.S. dollar wasn't guilty before Bitcoin. Um, but it's interesting. J.P. Morgan, very anti-blockchain years ago, has done a complete 180. There was an interview with him saying, if you're dumb enough to buy Bitcoin, if you're, the blockchain is fake or whatever, and then they're investing. J.P. Morgan, they're going in, and he's changed his mind. He said he regrets that statement. The blockchain is real. Um, and they've done an about face. So that's interesting. Little things that you just need to do a little check mark, a little bookmark in your brain about El Salvador, JP Morgan, it was anti, now they're for, all these things are just kind of like working itself out, like early American currency from back in the 1700s. So, um, future topics: proof of work versus proof of stake. Talk about that. Today was just an overview. Controversy. We're just going to touch on this real quick because this was brought up quite a bit. Stolen work on NFTs, but really we're going to just a quick thing on environmental issues. We looked at wallets, custodial versus non-custodial, and then maybe a future chat would be like, how do we find NFT projects? What are some coins to get into? And so yeah, anything from here that we want to before we get wrap up with the just kind of a preview of the energy topic?
No, I think we've talked enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's from Discord. It's no secret that blockchain uses a lot of energy to compute, and one of the main arguments against blockchain is that it's bad for the environment. Are there new methods or ideas that are focused on minimizing the impact on the environment? Now, here's why I love this question, because it assumes that there must be a better way to do it. So some conversations I've had is it's all bad, it's all energy hogs, it's all environmental unfriendly. But I like how somebody worded this. Are there alternatives? And yes, let's take a look at some charts here before we go. I don't know, is this chart better or is this chart better? Well, maybe we'll start with this one. Um, and so you see here, like Bitcoin at the top, and I think it is fair to admit that it can be have an environmental impact. Now there is some caveats to that, which I see in the chat, which I'm going to pull up in just a second. Um, but any thoughts on this chart here, Rico? I mean, you have Bitcoin at over 1,000 kilowatt per transaction, but to address what somebody asked in Discord, look all the way down to Cardano, Dogecoin, XRP. You see there, it's less than one per transaction. So,
Mhm.
any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, yeah, to answer the question, um, yes, like I think we need to be honest with ourselves and recognize that, not everything is perfect, and there are issues, or it is using a lot of energy, and that is an issue to our planet, and we need to be aware of that, especially if, like, if you're a believer of blockchain technology, and if we dream of decentralization, or if we see countries adopting it and people adopting it more, then we need to sit down and actually have this, conversations about issues that go on in this world, right? I mean, and energy consumption is one of them for sure. Now, are they doing something about it? Yes, 100%. We have proof of work, proof of stake. Proof of work, takes way more processing power. to complete transactions, to decipher those transactions. Proof of stake, it's a different method, different approach that Cardano, for example, uses, that it lowers the amount of power that it's needed to complete those transactions, to complete blocks in the blockchain. So yes, there is work being done. I know that, I think Marco was talking about, Ethereum point two, and how they're working towards that. And we can actually see in this chart right here, we see the difference between Ethereum on the second one, and then on the fifth, or no, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, on the fifth row, you see Ethereum point two, what it will be like. So Ethereum point two will use 90% less energy. So yes, I think it's an issue, and I think it's being worked on. But yes, it's definitely something that we shouldn't ignore, for sure. Um, I think if somebody were to approach me and say, "Hey, like, I don't want to get into crypto because of how much energy it uses," I'll say, you know what, that is totally fair. But if that's the way you're thinking about it, then how much how much YouTube do you watch? Like, how much Netflix streaming do you do? Um, because like those things consume a lot of energy as well. Maybe not as much as each transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, right? But yes, like there's definitely issues with it, but it's definitely being worked on, for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of a good point. Like, if we were to get into the environmental aspects of like even having my monitor on, my computer on all day, like how many kilowatts per hour is that being affected? Watching YouTube, which seems pretty innocuous, but that's connected to server farms. And, like when you add it all up, like there is an environmental aspect. Not saying that we shouldn't have this conversation and shouldn't
Mhm.
be critical at this Bitcoin kilowatt per transaction. It's just saying like, I wouldn't just throw this all out saying, oh, it's all environmental and friendly. Well, probably many things that we're interacting with are. And yes, there are aspects to crypto that are environmentally challenging, but doesn't mean they're all like that. And so this graph speaks to that. And then I think Marco has a good point, clean energy. I think from what I understand, and Marco, maybe you have more experience in this, is that many farms are solar power. Like they're not pulling or from like resources, they're using renewable energy, which would make complete sense. Like if I was a server farm owner, like to control costs, I would 100%, be solar powered. So there is an aspect where I think perhaps even on the higher end, there's an environmental like consciousness to control cost, to control energy consumption, to be smart about it with renewable energy.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. How much of it's actually clean energy, or how it's being used? But yeah, I mean, when you look at like Bitcoin, for example, though, it takes a lot of processing power, right? And that's why you see these huge warehouses with like graphics cards, and just going crazy, because they're trying to complete transactions so they can be rewarded with Bitcoin, which people call mining, essentially. So that's a lot of them. I know in some countries they actually use solar power to run them because it's cheaper for them, but because they're moving towards being more eco-friendly. There's other countries or other places where they have these big warehouses where they're not using renewable energy. So yes, there's what I mean. Like
right,
it,
right.
it really comes down to because it is decentralized in a way. It comes down to whoever owns those places, how they're gonna spend that energy, right? Um, but yeah, it's pretty neat. Bitcoin, it's an old blockchain. Um, I don't think it would be able to compete with the ones that are currently now. Like, it would not be as attractive as it is now. But obviously, because of its value and its history, it is. But yeah, this is a great graph here. You can see the energy consumption between like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's pretty dramatic. It's a lot. Just to give you an idea, I know we are talking about kilowatts, like about 20 hours of online videos. Like if you're watching YouTube for 20 hours, that will consume about 1 kilowatt of power, which it's not a lot. So when you look at those numbers per transaction, that is a lot of energy, for sure. And I was also looking at the total number of hours of video that's being watched on YouTube each month. It's about 3.25 billion hours of video being watched on YouTube. which is equal to 162 million kilowatts of power a month. Just
Just
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah. So
Wow.
the reality is, like, yes, a lot of what we do consumes power. Everything that we do as human leaves something behind that's not good for our planet. So it's great to be aware of it, to be able to talk about it. But if somebody comes up to me and saying, well, I think cryptocurrency is evil, or I don't want to get into it because of how it's not eco-friendly, then I would challenge that and say, well, like, how much YouTube do you watch per week? Like, do you stream movies on Netflix? Like, it's not just the only thing that's consuming energy. And in the other, I would go even further and saying, we see how Ethereum it's working towards Ethereum point two, where they want to lower the amount of energy they use. Do we see big companies like Netflix or YouTube working towards trying to lower how much energy they use, right? Are we holding those people accountable as well? I think sometimes the crypto community gets treated a little bit unfair because it's so new, because it's so different. There's these arguments that come up and that people sort of tell you and say, this is why I want nothing to do with it. But sometimes it can be a little bit harsh on the crypto community when you begin to compare or see around you that it's not the only thing. But yeah, that's just a little rant.
Right. No, yeah, and you look at the chart, like there's a Visa transaction near the end there. We're totally fine with some type of energy output that a Visa transaction does, but it's just in line with all these other ones we were talking about, Cardano, Dogecoin. I think somebody mentioned Chia before in the chat. So
Yeah, I think that was Naked.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like Daniel brings up a good point. Like, as we don't, I guess in one sense, we don't need to like dive into all aspects, but it's just to get us thinking. Something like Daniel's saying, mentioning here, how much gas pollution is saved from watching a movie online versus driving to the theater versus pollution from online, right? So I don't think we're trying to get like like me and Rico are not trying to get hypercritical to like the things that we do and use, and is your computer environmental friendly, and what kind of rating is your monitor and all that. But it's just more of like bringing balance to the conversation, to acknowledge, yeah, Bitcoin's an energy hog for sure, but let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater, because there are some great solutions that are available and that are just compelling. And so
Yeah, and I think that's why somebody like posted a comment or mentioned how was it Tesla or something like that, about how it was not a good company decision to go with Bitcoin or something like that because of its environmental impact. And I can see why they say that, because Bitcoin is one of the blockchains that uses the most power. So that definitely will not look good for sure. Yeah, makes sense why people bring this up and being aware of it. It's good to talk about for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, my friends. That was great convo. Any final thoughts? Yeah, similar to leaving a 1,000-watt light on the closet with the door closed. It does no one any good, but uses energy. Yeah, like shoot, what kind of lights do I got on going on over here? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my friend Rico, I thought that was great. I just had this chart here, this image here, just to talk about there is volatility. Let's just be honest with that. We're not talking about a stable U.S. dollar. We're talking about there is volatility, and so. Some people were concerned that we were endorsing crypto and NFTs. No, all we're saying, again, kind of coming back full circle, is we should definitely experiment and explore. If you're throwing, and I've heard of people doing this, I don't know why, like it's throwing their whole life savings to it. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm assuming that we're being judicious with this, and we're thinking through this. Some people that might have worked, by the way. I'm sure some people got crazy rich doing something like that, but that's very gambly. You know what I mean? So just to talk about volatility here, we talked about NFTs, but yeah, my friend, I thought that was a great chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for everybody who's engaging with us and asking questions. Like, this was a lot of fun. This was really good. Yeah,
that was fantastic. And yeah, hopefully we'll do some more. I'm all about it, doing some deep dives into, we just did a big overview. I'd love to do some deep dives in the future.
Yeah, when we were planning about this and chatting about, oh, how long do you think we'll stream for? Oh, maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes.
That's what I was thinking in
Yeah,
my. I was
I'm
about
making
to
it here
apologize to you.
2
I was like,
hours.
oh, 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah,
Let's.
but yeah, no, this has been great. This has been great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me over as well and being able to chat with you about this.
Yeah. I think it's great, and yeah, man.
Mhm.
I think that's about it. So we will sign off here. Nothing but love to everybody. Octane just showed up.
Oh no.
What's up, Octane? Yo, we were gonna talk for 45 minutes. We talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of content to watch.
Yeah, man, it went good though. We had a lot of good conversations about
Yeah.
everything. So good stuff. Crazy 2 hours for sure. That's all right, my friends. We'll catch you later. Thanks, everybody.
Sounds good. See you guys.
Yeah, see you later.
This time, all the things you said we do, they're just overused. All the things you said we try, they just passed us by. I'm getting sick of saving lives and leaving mine to try. So I picked up the pace, left you, I don't need you, babe. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? Feels like I'm losing patience when you keep me waiting. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? It's so hard to save you when I needed running out and I'm losing you. It's like our love was fine, but we lost our minds and feelings, and you can blame me for the reasons. All the times we tried to fix us left me compromised. You told me to leave you, so I did, and now all of us died. I'm getting sick of saving lives and leaving mine to dry. So I picked up the pace, left you, I don't need you, babe. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? Feels like I'm losing patience when you keep me waiting. Why does the world keep spinning round when all I did was hold you down? But it's hard to save you when I needed Why does the world keep spinning round? And all I did was hold you down. Why does the world keep spinning round? And all I did was hold you